What's good, and welcome into Cronkite Sports Live. Alongside my partner, Carrie Crowley, I'm Jake Garcia. There were rumors last week, Carrie, that we skipped the show because we hadn't figured out what our Halloween costumes were going to be.
Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but it looks like the ASU offense was in costume, or at least some sort of a disguise, because we haven't seen a prolific outing like that all season long.
Yeah, I won't confirm or deny those allegations about us either, but I'd go a step further with ASU football. This team is now officially a ghost. Still, there were a lot of booms this week that may have convoluted the actual state of ASU football. On Monday, the top-ranked receiver in all of Arizona, N'Keal Harry, pledges allegiance to the Sun Devils for the next 3 or 4 years. On Tuesday, Todd Graham laid the hammer down and said his team steals signs because, well, nothing says you can't. But make no mistake about it, these are not jolly times for Sun Devil football. And here to remind us of all that is WCSN analyst Zane Hopen. Zane, we've had an interesting situation where last week ASU played a game and then we had a show after. No game has happened since, so now it's your turn again to break down this game. Remind our viewers, ASU and Oregon, where did it all go wrong for ASU?
Yeah, well, again, everybody's going to remember the two penalties at the end of the game, one that should have been overturned, one that didn't get called and resulted in an interception. But really where it all happened was the defensive breakdowns. Too many big plays, too many big touchdown plays, as you can see on this graphic. 2 touchdowns of 60-plus yards, 2 in overtime only that were 20-plus yards. That's just unacceptable and really something we haven't seen from this defense since the USC game.
And this should all be very disturbing for ASU fans because next up on the schedule is a team that feasts on these sort of defensive miscues. So give me one thing that ASU needs to do in this game against Washington State. We saw them get torched by big plays, but now they go up against the air raid offense and Mike Leach.
Well, really with their quarterback and their 2 receivers in Gabe Marks and River Craycraft, it's a big play waiting to happen. They'll beat you with the play action, the long pass, the short pass, and break tackles. And so really it's all about just being disciplined like they were against UCLA bouncing back from USC because they have the playmakers, they can make big plays, it's just a matter of the defense stopping them.
Safety Armand Perry is possibly done for the season. Todd Graham confided that on Thursday after that practice, which means a very raw Kareem Moore will continue to start in his place. It's a migraine situation for the Sun Devils right now. No silver lining in sight, but how do they correct these miscues?
Getting back to disciplined football, getting back to tackling, preventing the big plays. That's really all you can do against this Washington State team.
ASU hasn't lost 3 games in a row since 2012. Based on their weaknesses and Washington State's strengths, Saturday's game will certainly be a grind. Thanks as always for joining us, Zane. Later on in the show, we'll send it out to Brett Decker in Tempe, who documents exactly what ramifications there are for a few more poor ASU performances.
It took fewer than 365 days for Arizona State to attention to field an NCAA Division I hockey team before the Sun Devils hit the ice for the first time. Now, in the program's first month of play, ASU is learning just how long it takes to foster a winning culture. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, and our hockey coverage team is here to tell you a Division I program isn't truly built in a year.
Thanks, guys. Hi, everybody, and welcome into Oceanside Ice Arena in Tempe. I'm Tyler Paley, joined by Colton Dodson, Megan Plain, and Joe Constantine, here to recap the ASU hockey season thus far, guys. It's been an overall productive one. We've talked a lot about the progress this team has made, but realistically, where have they fallen short? What are they not doing well so far?
You know, Tyler, jumping up to that NCAA level, that's going to be a big increase for them in speed and urgency on the ice. They haven't seen that so far, so this is new to them, and they're going to need to really step up that urgency. Greg Powers talked about it in practice on Wednesday, and that's one of the things that they're working on, but I'm also going to pinpoint that as one of the things that they really need to improve on. Pick up the urgency, pick up the speed.
And you talked about the tempo being new to this team, and on this team, a team that boasts 16 freshmen, it's gonna take a minute. You know what I mean? There's gonna be a learning period. And while they have sort of bridged that gap in a sort of seamless way to this point, there still have been some growing pains. And again, on a team with 16 freshmen, you're gonna see that at different points.
Well, these are also freshmen you're talking about, they're 23, 24-year-old guys. I expect them to contribute a lot more, and their pace of play should be up there. They play into these junior leagues, and guys, these junior leagues are the real deal. I mean, you see a lot of these guys come out of these leagues, go straight to the NHL. They don't even play college hockey. So I expect a lot more from them. That, and they need to improve their power play, their penalty kill, because their special teams play is going to be something that needs to improve to play these NCAA teams.
Now, the last team to do this, to make the jump from the ACHA to the NCAA, was back in 2012. That was the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, the Nittany Lions went 13-14-0 that year. Compared to them, is ASU where they need to be?
Well, I think ASU is in a good spot. I mean, they do have 3 wins in this inaugural season, 4 if you count the U of A home opener. But again, they have to do things better to be able to compete Penn State had a great season at 13-14. I think if Arizona State can find themselves around that 500 level, then they're in a comfort zone and they can continue to progress off of that. They're going to continue to get recruits now they're at the NCAA level. They're where we expect them to be, but they can improve on a lot of things as we've talked about.
I do agree, and they're going to see a vast array of talent come into Oceanside. I know when they come back here on December 5th, they're going to be taking on Alberta from Canada, and they are the real deal. So in games like this, they're going to learn different little things to take from each game and improve on moving forward. So there's going to be a lot of lessons in this inaugural season. There already have been, and I expect year 2, this entire year, to be a learning experience, as I already stated. In year 2, we're going to see this team put that all to work.
I'm going to agree with both of you. This is a learning experience this year, and they played some tough teams. I do think they are where we expect them to be, where Penn State was. That's kind of a good range where I think the Sun Devils can reach. Now, they played teams like Quinnipiac. I mean, these are good, experienced teams, so we're going to expect these losses. It's going to happen when you're a first-year team and you're just starting at the NCAA level.
ASU is off this week. Next weekend on Friday and Saturday, they'll travel up and play Lake Superior State University. We'll be sure to give you all the coverage on CronkiteSports.com. For Colton Dodson, Megan Plain, and Joe Constantine, I'm Tyler Paley. Back to you guys in the studio.
And you guys know better than anyone that Coach Greg Powers is not afraid of a challenge. The road ahead for Arizona State so difficult. You look at all the ranked teams they played down the stretch, St. Cloud State, Clarkson, UMass Lowell, all these teams. I couldn't tell you what their mascots are, but I can tell you that they're very relevant in the world of college hockey, and they're going to be relevant in the minds of the Arizona State players in the near future.
Switching gears now, ASU volleyball is undergoing some tough times at the moment. The Sun Devils haven't played themselves out of a spot in the NCAA tournament yet, but that in itself is a frightening image to fathom. How can they stop the leaking before they ultimately sink at the big dance? Their recipe up to this point has been a flurry of lineup changes. 5 or 6 hitters, 1 or 2 setters, who plays outside, who plays opposite. All these questions head coach Jason Watson tried to answer at one point, but now no longer.
I think where we're at right now is that it really doesn't matter 5-1 or 6-2. It matters what attitude and what belief we have as a group, as a team, to play.
We're ready to burst, I think, and this will be a good push for us, hopefully going into the tournament, when we see if we make it or not.
No, hold on.
Forget it.
Experts covering the team are forecasting a return back to the 6-2 for this Sun Devil volleyball team, supposedly the team's bread and butter. We'll know by 8 o'clock tonight if that's indeed true as ASU hosts number 10 Washington, a team that just handed the top-ranked team in the nation its first loss of the season.
With the Arizona State football team having to fend off cheating allegations this week regarding stealing opponents' offensive signals, there were plenty of hot takes on Twitter. Though the good folks here at CSL pride ourselves on living above the influence of clickbait, our Gavin Shaw is here to recap the folks on social media who did make some noise.
Well, guys, I'm happy to be here because this might have been the best week of Twitter in ASU history. It started off with a literal earthquake that shook the Twitter world, followed by a controversy that probably shouldn't have been one. And finally, on a week when everyone else wore a costume, an ASU student journalist decided to be himself, probably to a fault. Ooh. And with that, let's hit the tweets. Earlier this week, Todd Graham acknowledged that he did in fact steal opponents' signals, a practice that isn't illegal and far from unique. The Arizona Republic's Doug Haller tweeted out the Pac-12 statement supporting this. Guys, should this have been an issue at all?
No, it shouldn't have been an issue, but I do have an issue with the people who think it's an issue. There were people saying that they should be held accountable, that this is the end of the world pretty much for Sun Devil football. If it doesn't say so in the rule book that it's cheating, why is anyone talking about this?
We don't discriminate here at CSL. Gavin, I'm glad you chose an old and dying form of social media, the email screenshot, to really get that point across.
Carry them all about the classics. Arizona State point guard and best friend of Bobby Hurley, Shannon Evans has a lot of free time on his hands since he's, well, not eligible to play basketball this year. So when a mini quake struck Phoenix, Evans decided to revolutionize the Netflix and chill game. Guys, what do you think about Earthquake and Chill?
Well, I know we almost got suspended earlier this year for talking about Netflix and chill on this show, so all I'll say about Earthquake and Chill is I do it for the boys back home, and that means I do it for the San Andreas Fault.
Yeah, Earthquake and Chill, I can tell you for a fact that Arizona is the only state that would fathom such a thing. If an earthquake were to happen, say, like in California, there would be no chill, and California would be on the other side of the world. It just doesn't happen. That earthquake was not even really an occurrence.
All right, Shannon, you heard it from our anchors. Just take her out for dinner. Zach Pockleb is a lot of things. A friend, a soccer fan. Heck, he's even a Cronkite Sports Live analyst. But who knew he was such a hopeless romantic? Guys, I'm going to sum it up for you. Zach saw a barista at the famous coffee spot Hazel Rock, and he wanted to quote-unquote earthquake and chill with her.
Or like you mentioned earlier, he wanted to take her out to dinner.
Yeah, that's probably Zach's a great guy.
I think I've made a name for myself on the show defending Zach Pockleb's Twitter game. I'll defend it here again. He's just trying to have fun. He's laughing at himself. Everyone else is laughing at him too, but there's nothing wrong with this, right?
I guess I contradicted myself. I said we here at CSL try to live above the clickbait, and then what do? We show Zach Pockleb tweets.
Guys, an earthquake shook Phoenix to its core, and then Zach Pockleb rattled Twitter. That's all I have for you. Thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Gavin. Well, I'm a firm believer that the week starts on Monday and not Sunday, but ASU wrestler Blake Stauffer is now making me eat my words. The All-American gets my Player of the Week award after winning the 184-pound weight class in Atlanta's All-Star Classic. Stauffer and ASU officially start the NCAA season Sunday in West Virginia.
Well, Jake, I'm a firm believer the season doesn't start until the first game is played. But ASU women's basketball coach Charlie Turner-Thorne is making me eat my words too. The 19th-year head coach could have one of her best teams in program history this season, and the preseason accolades came rolling on in this week. First, the Sun Devils learned they'll begin the season ranked 15th in the AP poll, and on Thursday, forward Sophie Bruner was named the preseason All-Pac-12 team. Not too shabby for a coach who hasn't even started the season yet.
You can't deny the fact that house cleaning has really been a theme for ASU athletics this season. We mentioned it with lacrosse, and I'll mention it here with ASU swim and dive. This is a program that's a little bit further along in the process, and having a head coach who heads the Olympic team and propelled Michael Phelps to greatness certainly helps. Still, growing pains are natural. Top-tier recruiting hasn't happened yet. It just all boils down to whether or not you embrace the struggles and have a twinkle in your eye when talking about the future.
For a year and wait for things to happen. We're kind of just trying to jump on the horse and get going.
Okay, we're coming out to a two-shot.
Now we bring in Ryan Curry, who also has his twinkle in his eye when talking about this program. Ryan, all the talk about Bowman being fantastic. He's an Olympic coach. Michael Phelps is his protege. But for ASU fans, give me something tangible and concrete. What can he bring to this ASU program?
Well, as you said, he's such a good Olympic coach. He has years of Olympic experience coaching Michael Phelps. The one thing that every Arizona State swim fan is happy about is the fact that he's come back to college to coach. He's had years at University of Michigan, but he's here at ASU looking to make an impact. And from what I've heard from every single Arizona State swimmer, they think he's the best. They call him King Bob, as a matter of fact, because they have so much respect for the person. And he's already made such a big impact. Last year, the women lost their first 5 meets, and this year, they have a 2-1 record before this morning, and the guys are undefeated at 2-0.
Well, let's get exactly to what happened this morning. You were at the meet in Tempe. It started at 11. You raced over here to the studio to give us your takeaways from that. Both this men and women's swim and dive team were taking on a nationally ranked USC squad. So what were your takeaways? The women, they were thoroughly defeated, but the men, they actually kept it competitive.
Yeah, a lot of promising events happened today. Now, it's really, really exciting to say that ASU's men's team is really doing a good job this year. As a matter of fact, before this morning's meet, everyone thought that the ASU men's team was not going to do a good job against USC. But as a matter of fact, good performances from Barkley Perry and Patrick Park really showed that the ASU men's team is looking to make an impact right now. Now, they're in the Pac-12, and that's probably the hardest conference in all of swimming, and right now, they're looking pretty good with the new head coach, Bob Bowman.
Both the ASU men and women's swim and dives team turn right back around tomorrow to play again, the men against the Air Force Academy, and the women a conference matchup against UCLA. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Carrie, back to you.
While many Pac-12 basketball teams begin their seasons tonight, Arizona State is still waiting for the Bobby Hurley era to tip off. The Sun Devils host Western New Mexico in an exhibition game tomorrow, and WCSN basketball reporter Zach Pockleb was out at practice this week to see how Hurley has built this year's roster and who he expects to be in the mix for a starting spot.
The theme around Arizona State men's basketball has changed. Bobby Hurley comes to Tempe with goals of upping the intensity and the tempo on both sides of the court. With just 6 players returning from last season and 9 overall scholarship players available, Hurley has the tough task of finding the consistent and effective rotation.
And I think our strength is our balance and our numbers and the quality, 1 through 9.
A centerpiece in the rotation will likely be, well, in the center with senior Eric Jacobson. He comes into camp 20 pounds lighter than last season and has already made a great impression on his new head coach.
At this level, you need a guy with that type of size that take up space in the lane and can rebound the way he can.
Jacobson and the new-look Sun Devils will be hosting Western New Mexico in what will be ASU's first open scrimmage since 2007. From Wells Fargo Arena, I'm Zach Pocklib, Cronkite Sports Live.
Taking over this Arizona State roster, no easy feat for Bobby Hurley because he has so much to replace. Arizona State loses Shaq McKissick, John Gilling, and Bo Barnes from last season, all three excellent three-point shooters, and you look at the way the production ranks compared to the returners throughout the Pac-12 conference. Hurley was an excellent coach in his 2 seasons at Buffalo, but he'll need a miracle this season to keep the Sun Devils near the top of the Pac-12.
It's been truly sensational to witness the paradigm shift that ASU football has undergone this season. We've seen them go from the old worldview, national championship or bust, to the current theory, approach every day like it's your last. This all happened in the span of 8 games. It really reminds me of that one time when the people of the 16th century went from geocentrism to heliocentrism.
Love it. Love that reference.
2 things we now know for certain. The sun is at the center of the solar system, and the Sun Devils are fighting for their bowl game lives. Here's Brett Deckert with the latest.
Championship anymore, but one thing they're still playing for is pride.
The big thing we're talking about is bringing your energy level, bringing your focus, putting together a complete game.
Todd Graham has said that. More than anything else, he's a teacher. That'll come in handy the rest of the year as he tries to turn a disappointing season into a valuable lesson.
It doesn't matter what your record is. It's the same thing as bringing it every week, and that's what you're going to look back on. You know, those are the plays you're going to regret, is where you didn't attack.
Graham expects added fire and passion from his players this week, and they'll need it if they plan on stopping Washington State's air raid. The Cougars have passed the ball on 70% of plays this season.
Most people run the ball to set up the pass. They do just the opposite. They throw it, and it's almost like they just run it just to say they ran it.
But regardless of Washington State's play selection, the Sun Devil defense will go in with the same mindset they always do.
You got to stop the run first. It's just reading your keys and doing what you do every week.
And while the Cougars only call a few design rushing plays, they disguise the run in other ways.
The screens, the short screens, wide receiver screens, all that are run plays for them. And they're running the ball better than they ever have.
It'll be a tall task for the Sun Devils on Saturday. From Tempe, I'm Brett Deckert for Cronkite Sports.
Armed with a 500 record more than halfway through the most disappointing season of the Todd Graham era, the Sun Devil football team is fighting not for a Pac-12 championship, but just for bowl eligibility at this point. Fortunately for ASU, the Conference of Cannibals, not champions, has forced many other teams into a similar position. And our Dominic Cotroneo is here to show us one more matchup that impacts the Pac-12 South standings.
Thanks, Kerry. A lot to talk about here in the Pac-12 South standings, so let's jump right into them. Utah still in the lead here in the South. You look on the left, that's the conference record. On the right is their overall record, and then who their opponent is this week. We're going to look at the only inter-division South matchup this week. U of A visiting USC. This is a very relevant game with ASU sitting in 4th place. We look at the remaining schedules for each team, the Wildcats and the Trojans. U of A clearly has the tougher remaining schedule, but USC's is no slouch either. Realistically, here's what the results probably are going to look like the rest of the season. U of A could easily lose out, while the Trojans could easily win the remaining 4 games, but that's no fun. Let's look at the one scenario that ASU is hoping for. They need an upset this week for U of A, and that would send USC into maybe a spiral with losses against Oregon and UCLA. In that scenario, ASU finishes 3rd in the Pac-12 South and no worse than 5th in the Pac-12 overall. That is, of course, if they win the remaining 4 games of their season. And that is this week's Impact.
You just heard Dom talk about a matchup that'll influence ASU this weekend. We're now going to bring in a segment in the way it is that we try and really influence the world, because the end result is a 30-second monologue. We try and talk about all the social issues that are going on at Arizona State. The first question I'll ask you, Kerry, ASU plays Washington State this weekend. It's a team coached by Mike Leach, and conveniently, you're a huge fan of Mike Leach. Give me your favorite story.
15 years ago, Mike Leach had his first season the Oklahoma Sooners offensive coordinator. One problem, he needed a quarterback for his air raid offense. So he traveled to Snow College in Utah, and recruited a part-time starter in Josh Heupel. Heupel then became the Heisman runner-up and led the Sooners to the national championship.
That's big time.
Mike Leach is an absolute genius. Jake, now Heupel was lightly recruited, but a man who's heavily recruited. Yes, N'Keal Harry, a local product, Chandler High School in Arizona, just committed to Arizona State University. Mike Norvell and co. finally land someone. Tell Sun Devil fans what they want to hear. Is he the best receiver since Jalen Strong?
I won't go as far as saying he's the best receiver since Strong. That puts unfair expectations on him. But I would tell you if he played for Arizona State right now, he'd probably be their best receiver. He's really a stud. Now to an ASU basketball team that may or may not be filled with studs, but in an exhibition game tomorrow against Western New Mexico, they'll all look like studs. If I were to tell you this is a team that's a 35-point favorite, who would you be picking against the spread?
A 35-point spread, in theory. I'm surprised you're even putting a line on that, considering ASU star Savon Goodman will be held out with an injury. But Western New Mexico did fall in an exhibition earlier this week to New Mexico State University 80-39. That's a 41-point differential, so I'll take the Pac-12 team and the Sun Devils to cover that spread. Jake, now to the golf world. Jon Rahm came back to Arizona State for his senior year for 3 reasons. 1, to win another Ben Hogan Award. 2, to break the school record for tournament victories, and 3, help ASU win a golf championship for the first time since 1996. Can Rahm accomplish all 3 feats?
Well, he has 8 wins left to break Mickelson's record and around that many tournaments remaining, so I don't think he'll get that one. But both he individually and the Sun Devils as a group are ranked 9th in the country, so their chances there are a little bit better. Now over to ASU baseball, the diamond and the switch from Nike to Adidas is something that many people have really been pleased about so far. But now comes baseball season, and that may result in doing away with the Tequila Sunrise jerseys. How bad of a move is that?
Bad is an understatement. There's no way to quantify in words how devastating this will be to the Arizona State baseball program. The most marketable jerseys in college baseball. I don't know if they'll even win a game next year without them, Jake. Now, on a happier note, let's turn this into a positive spin. Every week you give us your Sun Devil feel-good story of the week, so tell us, what is it this week?
Well, I love this beat that I've assigned myself to. It's really refreshing, and it gives some light to athletes who may be going under the radar. We'll go back to the mid-2000s. Amy Hastings gets my nod for Sun Devil feel-good story of the week, just named to the Pac-12 All-Century team. The accolades are really starting to pile up. 2004 Female Athlete of the Year for the Pac-12, and now this honor for the All-Century team. Her neck's got to be starting hurting just from all those medals she now has.
And don't forget the new award you just bestowed on her, the Sun Devil feel-good story of the week.
It's probably the most influential and definitely the heaviest medal to carry. Now for our winner, let's find out who it was this week. I think that's my cue because this was the picture that I sent in, but on Wednesday, the NCAA released its statistics for graduation success rate for student athletes. Well, from the bottom of my heart, congratulations, Arizona State. An 84% graduation success rate for student athletes is the all-time high for the university. It shatters the original goal of 80% and continues a trend of improving in each of the past 9 years. Probably even bigger news, ASU's women in GSR 90%, and its overall African-American GSR is second in the Pac-12. Now, I'm currently sitting next to someone who wrote a 60-page thesis on the logistics of student athletes getting paid. It's a campaign that's gaining steam and one that I support as well. But I sincerely hope that compensating student athletes doesn't devalue achievements like this one. Academics and athletics can coexist, and this is proof. Just make sure we don't forget about the student and student athlete. That's the way it is.
Excellent work, Jake. Now, before we look back on the week that was with top plays, we check in with the weekend ahead of us as Tara Pinkley is here with your weekend forecast.
Thanks, guys. As the weather gets nicer, so does ASU's lineup of games. Soccer kicks us off with a very important matchup against rival Arizona, and 2 hours later, volleyball takes on Washington to start their homestand. Men's basketball starts the season with an exhibition game against Western New Mexico, and swimming gives us a pair of meets early Saturday. And then football finishes the night when they try to bounce back with a win against Washington State. Sunday brings us the wrestling team's first match of the season in Washington, and volleyball finishes the weekend with a matchup against Washington State. ASU has an exciting weekend ahead of them, and I hope you guys at the desk do as well.
Tara's the hype person for what's ahead, and now it's our job to be the hype people from what's behind. With that in mind, let's go to top plays. Play number 3, ASU and Oregon a week ago. Vernon Adams had himself a game, but here he gets picked off by Kareem Orr. The body control, the soft, tender hands. He's only a true freshman. He's also good for one critical mistake a game, but also a play like this as well. More from Sun Devil Stadium in just a second.
No one knows how to celebrate like Kareem Orr either. Now over to the soccer pitch, Larissa Staub brings us play number 2 with this laser from outside the box, putting the Sun Devils up 2-0. Larissa Staub, one more look at that stab into the back of the net. Jake, I'm commentating on a game in which the Sun Devils won.
I'm sorry. I love the players. You love the game. ASU football didn't win this one, but their players looked really good at least. Quarterback Mike Bercovici using that polyester double-hole mesh from Adidas. That makes him ultra elusive. Touchdown run for the graduate. Sun Devils fall, though, in heartbreaking fashion to Oregon. And that, boys and girls, will do it for our show. But before we say adios, Carrie, I just want to let you know that like ASU football, I'm approaching every day like it's my last. There will come a point in time, I don't know when, but we'll have anchored our last show together ever.
Practically brings a tear to my eye, Jake. And as a senior, I like to think of myself like a DJ Foster type figure. Maybe it hasn't been my best season on the show, but it's time to make these last few shows count and do our best to get bowl or Emmy eligible, however you want to look at it.
Well, from all of us to all of you, thanks for taking time out of your Friday afternoon to enjoy this episode of Cronkite Sports Live. He's Carrie, and I'm Jake. We'll see you next week.